98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. Like I said earlier, we are going to be addressing the situation in the polity as we always do, and today we have decided to address the situation of the budget, many which affects them, the allocations to different regions amongst. We're going to be talking about the financial appropriations to the National Assembly, which was one of the most contentious subject matters regarding the budget. Many other things have come up, but then there was a lengthy conversation about the appropriation increase of the National Assembly budget from 197 billion to 344.85 billion in a letter that was dated 13th January 2024. We had SERAP highlighting the economic realities in the country and asking for a cut in the cost of governance. Now, SERAP have stated that if it does not get a response from the National Assembly regarding reverting back to the original figure that was allotted to the National Assembly, they are going to invoke the law. Well, the 7-day ultimatum as proposed by SERAP elapsed on the 20th of January, and they have in fact taken the 𝗪𝗀𝗋, the Senate President, to court. In fact, the National Assembly in its entirety, because of this decision to manipulate the budget, in their words. Now, they have asked the courts to declare the action and the increase of the National Assembly budget without the representation of said budget by the President as a breach of democratic principle and separation of power. So we're going to talk in details about the 2024 budget and lay a lot of emphasis on the allocations or the monies that have been set aside for the National Assembly. And joining me for that conversation this evening on the Situation Room as we analyze the 2024 budget and the National Assembly appropriation is Public Affairs Analyst and Managing Editor, Avalon Daily. His name is Ayo Adio. Good evening to you, sir. Such a pleasure to have you join us on radio.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so very much. So let's get into conversation. I appreciate your presence. Let's get straight into it. Now, the president had initially proposed a 27.5 trillion naira budget for 2024, right, for the fiscal year. But because of certain considerations like macroeconomic factors, among other things, they decided to add 1.2 trillion naira. But before we begin to discuss in details the allocations, the representations of this allocation, and the reaction of people to these allocations, I want us to talk about the budget that we had, say, last year and the budget that we have this year. I want us to juxtapose the 2023 budget and the 2024 budget, and I would like to highlight some key details in the 2024 budget. Now, the total budget at this time is 28.7 trillion. We have a deficit of about 9.18 trillion. We are going to spend 8.2 trillion to service debt. Our recurrent expenditure is 8.7 trillion. Our capital expenditure is 9.9 trillion. But there's an estimated national revenue from this same budget of 18.32 trillion. So please kindly open the conversation by expressing your thoughts about the 2023 budget and the 2024 budget, and what do you think?
You wouldn't argue that there has been any drastic or significant changes in many of the allocations that have gone to these ministries and agencies. Of course, fundamentally, you have a lot more money going to the defense ministry, largely because the president seems to want to prioritize dealing with insecurity and hence, the kind of budgetary allocation that has gone to defense. But aside what has gone to defense, there is nothing in that budget that suggests a grand economic agenda, especially given the economic realities of our country. So if you juxtapose, like you have just rightly done, the 2023 budget and the 2024 budget, there is no quantum leap in terms of the spending priorities of the government. For instance, to pursue stimulus spending that would drive consumption in the economy and stimulate, perhaps production and productivity, if you'd like, which should inadvertently, trigger the reliance of the economy. You don't seem to see that kind of budget items or budget spending, particularly with what has been passed. So what we have seen seems to be more of the same. You I listened to one of the hearings where the Minister for Works was before the House Committee, also the Senate Committee, and the line items that was going to spend on certain roads across the country was laughable, and in fact was told of by the senator representing ฎᴏ that it was completely unrealistic to be spending hundreds of millions that wasn't going to even deliver 20 kilometers of road. So, really and truly, we haven't had a significant departure from what we have seen in the 2023 budget. You will have thought, or one would have expected, that this particular budget would have been what you would call a stimulus budget, especially because unemployment is high, poverty is increasing, inflation is rocket high, and the purchasing power of citizens are dwindling. Manufacturers are struggling to cope and survive in the economy. So, if you would have thought that our spending priorities, and particularly the size of our budget, would be such that stimulate the economy to get rolling again. Unfortunately, that has not been the case. It's simply seen as so.
Well, thank you so very much. I just wanted us to start by juxtaposing the 2023 budget and the 2024 budget, because a lot of things have changed. Our inflation figures are not the same anymore. Our debt profile continues to increase. So we were expecting that these factors would inform their decision to, the allocations and the provisions of the 2024 budget. So now let's talk more specifically about the National Assembly allocation. Although for the budget as expected, security did get the lion's share of the budget. We have sectors like health, infrastructure. They also got a sizable percentage of the budget, which is great, I should add. But certain allocations did trigger the public, and this is the National Assembly's decision to increase their own allocation. Like I said, they initially just had about 197 trillion was the initial amount for the National Assembly, but then they got the budget and decided to increase it to 344.85 billion naira. So then I would like to ask you, Ayo, aside from all of the increase, their justification is what further triggered Nigerians, right? There's 200 million naira for some e-library, amongst other provisions. So how can these figures, right, be justified in the face of rising inflation, which is 28.9% at this particular time? What does this National Assembly allocation say about the sense of priority of those whom we voted to represent us at the National Assembly?
So I think it's three things here. The first is, I've always argued that there seems to be a disconnect between the politicians in Abuja and the realities of the average Nigerian across the country, whether it's in Lagos, in Port Harcourt, in Kebbi, or in Gusau. There seems to be a fundamental disconnect between those who elect in Abuja and the realities of the people across the country. The second thing is, there doesn't seem to be equal.
Hello? All right, we apologize. There seems to have been some sort of interruption, but we're going to try to get Ayo Adio back on the line in just a few minutes. Ayo Adio is a public affairs analyst, and he is the managing editor, Avalon Daily. He's the one speaking to us today as we analyze the allocations to the National Assembly, and more specifically, their decision to increase the budget that was initially highlighted for their operation. Hello, Ayo. Do we have you back now?
For some reason, from went out.
Yes, it's okay.
I was saying that that the second problem is the fact that we don't have a coherent agenda driven by the executive and backed by legislative action, to move us economically forward. So, for instance, and I've made this argument severally, when inflation soared beyond the reasonable limits, sometime last year or 2 years ago, when 2021, now, so 2 years ago, and especially coming out of COVID, the American government, for instance, pursued a spending kind of budget plan where it put together an Inflation Reduction Act, where essentially it spent about 1.2 trillion on stimulus packages, whether it was 480 billion that it spent on subsidizing electric vehicles and alternative energy industries in the United States, which was meant to bring back factories into the United States and create meaningful jobs with decent wages. And whether it was stimulus packages that went into businesses and farmers that were targeted, at creating jobs and stimulating the economy. The result, of course, was that 2 years down the line, they have record level of one of the lowest unemployment figures in the last 50 years. They've created millions of jobs and they've beaten inflation down significantly. So the problem we have in Abuja is the fact that there is no coherent economic agenda. And so the political class are working at cross purposes. And unfortunately, it even seems that the APC, for instance, controls the executive and controls the legislative branch. They have more members at the House of Assembly and the Senate. And I think, if I'm correct, they even have more governors.
Yes.
And you would have expected that if the party is that dominant, its political philosophy should be seen in its economic planning. And it should reflect in the kind of budget that they present, and it should also reflect in the plans that they pursue. Unfortunately, that coherent grand plan is lacking, and that's why you see the National Assembly working at cross purposes with the executive, and you're pursuing spending billions on libraries and furniture allowances and renovations that do not significantly tie into stimulating the economy. And except we get that vision right in terms of proper economic planning tied to a national agenda, these kinds of ridiculous spendings are always going to happen. And the third and most important thing is that the beauty of representative democracy is that the people we send to Abuja are directly accountable to their constituents in a way that the ministers are not. And so what needs to happen is, and thankfully that's part of what you're doing, is that the Nigerian people need to hold those we send to Abuja to account every weekend when they come back home, to put pressure on them to say that these line items are ridiculous and they do not want their senators or House of Rep members supporting these kinds of spending at the Senate or at the Green Chambers. Now, if we continue to do that and put pressure on the issue, unfortunately what happens is that a set of Nigerians who absolutely do not want to eat free food, free lunch, pressure whatsoever to deliver into socio-economic development. And so, for me, these three things need to happen concurrently for us to shift spending in the right direction. Because clearly, it has shown over time that Nigeria's problem is not so much of its high debt burden. It's the ridiculousness of how we spend even the meager resources that we have. Our spending priorities are so wrapped and makes no sense to the average economy, but even to the average person who looks at those spending priorities.
Right.
And so for me, we just have to hold them to account, except we have just resigned faith and allow them to live ostentatious lifestyle on taxpayers' funds while poverty continues to spread across our country.
All right. Thank you very much, Ayo. Before we proceed to the next question, I would like to inform the public that we are live on social media. So please join us on Facebook or YouTube. We're streaming the show live. You can take advantage of the live chat option there to drop your submission in real time, whether or not you're reacting to something that our analyst is saying. You want to air your opinion whilst he's still speaking. Please go to Facebook, drop the comment there. When we open the phone lines, we can address this and maybe even have him answer the questions that you might have. My name is BABALOLA. I'm having a conversation with Ayo Adio, and we're talking about the 2024 budget with emphasis on the appropriation to the National Assembly. We're trying to reconcile their decision to increase the National Assembly budget from 197 trillion to well over 344 billion naira in the face of the economic crisis that we're currently enduring in the country. So, Ayo, aside from the hefty allocations that have been set aside for the National Assembly, their capacity to properly scrutinize the budget has also been called to question. And this is against the backdrop of the never-ending duplication of items in the budget. For example, the renovation of the National Assembly, this particular project almost have a permanent spot in every annual budget. There's always the highlight, renovation for the National Assembly, for years on end. So should we consider this maybe some sort of unintentional error on the part of the National Assembly, and we're the ones who are misinterpreting the fact, or maybe it's a project they were not able to finish all these years and they have to appropriate to finish the project? Or then should we start to accept that the whole budget scrutiny, the whole budget defense process is nothing but a smoke screen?
So there is what should be, and then there is what is. The reality is, and I can tell you this for free, what usually happens at budget defense is that, usually some of these senators are lobbied before the appearance of the chief executive of that agency or the minister of that agency. There's a lot of, conversations behind the scenes before these appearances are made. And, those conversations are usually more important than the conversations that you see in those actual budget hearings. And unfortunately, that is why, it doesn't seem like this senators or House of Rep members are able to hold the executive to account as much as you would like. Now, ultimately, the lack of pressure to deliver at all ends is what creates the environment that makes these senators create soft landing for the executive. So if I know that the people back in my constituency do not care about the kind of spending that happens in the Ministry of Works, why should I do due diligence to ensure that every line item is defensible, right? And again, another thing that we must also follow is not just whether there are budgetary allocations to a particular plan or project. It's also follow whether allocations were actually made for those projects to be executed. And for instance, this one that you talked about, the renovation of the National Assembly, when money actually allocated to that project in the last 3 years, and the monies were indeed allocated, how much was allocated and how much work was done, and why do we still have to continue making budgetary provisions for renovation in the last 5 years? So democracy is a lot of work. It's a lot of work because you have to follow the money, you have to follow policies, and you have to follow interest groups. And inability to do these three things effectively and passionately with high level of commitment, the citizens are going to be sabotage at the end of the day. Which is why we must support civil society organizations, people like Budget Attracker, who are doing the job to follow the money in terms of National Assembly spending. And for me, the media also have to continue to hold this sort of conversation so that citizens can hold the elect Abuja. I say this every time. We want such a solid system where we elect somebody in the community to become rich while the entire community remains poor. It's such an antiquated system where we elevate individuals in communities and that community continues to wallow in penury and abject poverty. The reverse should actually be the case. That when we send elected representatives to Abuja, those dividends for which the individual was sent to Abuja is reflected in the community that he comes from. So the community actually progresses, not the situation where the individual progresses at the expense, of an entire community as a whole. And for this to happen, you have to follow people. It's not just about the National Assembly has raised their budget from 197 billion to 200 and something plus billion. It's to follow where this spending and where these monies have gone into. And once we see that these monies are being spent in frivolous white elephant projects, then we should be prepared to hold them to account, to call them out in the media, and of course to ensure that they come into town hall meetings in their constituency where they are challenged to defend this ridiculous spending. Otherwise, there are going to be political consequences to their incompetence in Abuja. As the Nigerian people must be willing to vote out non-performing, legislators that they send to Abuja if indeed they cannot defend some of the positions that they take on behalf of the people that they represent. Because you cannot be representing one of the poorest people in the world and be buying the latest SUV.
Right.
You can't be representing people who are struggling to feed and your priorities are a library in Abuja. You can't be representing people who are dying under inflation and stagnant wages, and what you're concerned about is changing the furniture and home allowances, and fat allowances for politicians. It makes absolutely no sense.
Ayo, thank you so very much. Let's talk about this. Let's put a little bit of politics in this. And when I ask the question, you would understand why I say let's put a little politics in this. Now, following the general elections last year, the electorates, me inclusive, we celebrated the fact that, for the first time in history, we have the most diverse National Assembly. Yes, one party dominates, but we have one of the most diverse National Assembly. At least there are 5 to 6 political parties represented at the Senate and even the House of Reps. And this excitement was not just for the sake of diversity, but because people believed it would, engender fresh perspective, proper representation, dissenting voices on questionable matters and so on, with the humongous allegation. But we've barely seen anything from our so-called strong opposition. Almost like they have become yes men and they are on board with all of the menu. Forgive me for my choice of words, but the question I'm really driving at is, are we now seeing some sort of manifestation of the saying, if you cannot beat them, you join them? Or what is the long-term implication of this conformity, again, by this so-called opposition that was supposed to be the actual voice of the people at the national level?
Well, I mean, if you choose the right word, conformity, it would look like people who campaigned as being outsiders have suddenly conformed, to the system. But these are no surprises. Let's call it spade what it is. The politicians in Nigeria are not driven by fundamental ideological lineage, and they win elections based on how much stomach infrastructure they can fund or by how much violence they can deploy, not by the quality of their ideas or the ideological leaning or the ideological battles that they hope to win when they go to Abuja. So you're sending people to Abuja who win elections by spending money or by deploying violence, and then you suddenly expect those kinds of politicians to pursue policies and programs that defend or resist policies and programs that are anti-people. I mean, I think it's a bit of wishful thinking. So for me, I'm not surprised at the level of conformity that I've seen at the national level. I'm extremely disappointed by the missed opportunities by opposition political parties. Because if you're going to position yourself as an opposition, and you want to position yourself to the Nigerian people as an alternative to be voted for a national election, then you must have the courage to resist certain programs based on your party's ideology and based on the reality of the people that you represent. And unfortunately, it would seem like the National Assembly, has become, a big boy club where there's a lot of conformity, like you said, and very little resistance to some of the outlandish things that we see and manage, from there. This is also to point out that it also appears that a lot of people do not understand the role that opposition political parties play or should play. That while it is your responsibility to support the running of government and to support getting policies that come from the executive that benefits the people, it is also your job to resist programs and policies and that has not been the case. It's been extremely disappointing, and it doesn't inspire confidence of the electorate. So what happens tomorrow is that when you have politicians who are genuinely campaigning as outsiders who want to engender change, there is a lot of apathy because people believe that they're just going to be elected same of the same. And it's quite disappointing that the hope that people had, that certain politicians would at least put up some resistance, they all seem to have, fallen like a pack of cards, and have joined, a big boycott. So it's quite unfortunate, but it shouldn't surprise anyone because none of these individuals campaigned on a clear ideological leaning. None of them got elected into office on the quality of the ideas that they professed. None of them engaged their constituents, on the practicality of legislation and how legislation can improve the lives and livelihoods of people. It was merely simply about spending money, about stomach infrastructure, about violence, and in many instances, about ethnic supremacy. And unfortunately, once you elect politicians on these grounds, you're not likely to get a crop of people who will lay resistance to anti-people policies and anti-people spending at the National Assembly.
Right. Thank you very much, Ayo. You'll be surprised at how surprised people were, especially when the conversation of the SUV was a very popular subject in the papers. A lot of people said, we have the Labour Party, we have the NNPP, we have the PDP, at the National Assembly. So it's no single person that could say, spending this amount of money on vehicles when we have people that are languishing in poverty, 133 million of them living below the poverty line. We should not be driving SUVs of over 160 million. Everybody just seemed to get on board with that particular provision, which is why I brought the question to the table. Like this conformity, the fact that they're very silent on issues that we would have expected the opposition to speak up on is quite amazing, and I wanted to get your perspective on that. Anyways, if you're just joining us, this is the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. My name is Sage Babalola. I'm having a conversation this evening via the phone line with Ayo Adio. He's a public affairs commentator, the managing editor of Avalon Daily, and we're talking about the 2024 budget. But like I said, a lot of the emphasis is being placed on the appropriation to the National Assembly, or more importantly, their decision to increase the allocation to the National Assembly in the face of all the economic issues that we're dealing with in the country at this time. What happened to their sense of priority, amongst other things? That is what we're really trying to draw out of this conversation that we're having this evening. Please do well to once again check us out on social media. We're live on Facebook. We're streaming the show, so you could definitely join us. If you're in transit and you want to be a part of the show, you don't have your radio on you, just go to social media, go to Facebook, check Mainland 98.3 FM, and you can be a part of the conversation. I apologize that we've taken more time than we promised to take, but please bear with us. This conversation is important. Now, I did mention earlier that security got the lion's share of the allocation, about 3.25 trillion, which is roughly 11.8% of the total budget. But the Minister of Defense, Abubakar Badaru, he asked members of the National Assembly to increase the allocation to the ministry in the 2024 budget. The Ministry of Defense had an allocation of about 78.5 billion. That's for their personal and overhead costs. But the minister says this money is not enough. Now, the Ministry of Defense is not the only one complaining. We have INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission. They also demanded 89 billion as opposed to the 40 billion that was set aside as appropriation for their statutory obligation. So INEC is saying one way you can guarantee accountability and democracy in the election is to up the monies that you're giving to us as an umpire. So what are your thoughts about these demands by the Ministry of Defense and our electoral umpire INEC? Now, these are not the only, I apologize, Ayo, these are not the only two, ministries that are asking for more money. But I highlighted these two because they represent a very significant part of us as a people, security and the electioneering process. So what do you think about their demand for more monies if they're going to perform optimally?
I started this conversation by saying that we're not spending nearly enough in terms of our budget size. For us to have the economy that will drive GDP growth at, for instance, 8 to 10% for at least another decade, which will essentially double GDP, you need to be spending at least 8 to 10 times this current budget size. So the reality is that we're not spending nearly enough. And unfortunately, you just touched two very important part of our nation building, which is one, the defense. For instance, we're not hiring enough policemen, and we're not paying enough to these policemen. We have not built enough housing for policemen across the country. The police stations are not properly equipped. They do not have the kind of technology that is required to police the 21st century. All of this requires funding. Anti-terrorism units across the military and the police and the DSS need special kinds of funding for them to be able to be on top of terrorism, to get intelligence right, as kidnapping units across various agencies, or across various security agencies. All of these things require huge funding and spending. And that is why, of course, to the extent that the defense minister is asking for more spending, I agree that we're not spending where is enough, because there are a lot of things that we need to do. Border security alone is going to cost us billions of dollars, and we have not even started scratching the surface of that, right? So there's a lot of work that needs to be done to guarantee security on every inch of our territory, and it will require a whole lot more spending than 2.1 trillion, let's be honest here. So for me, there isn't any qualm that we need to spend more to guarantee the security of lives and property. The problem is, when these monies are available, are these monies actually spent on the things that they were actually budgeted for or appropriated for? That is where we should zoom in on, because many of these monies are stolen at the end of the day. Even though they are grossly inadequate, many of these monies are stolen or misappropriated. So we should ensure that these monies are spent exactly on what they have been appropriated for, and at the best price possible, not in inflated contracts where middlemen, and cronies, those in power, siphon this money. And the same thing applies for INEC. The problem with INEC is that INEC always, plans its elections based on the average voter register. So if you had 80 million registered voters in 2023, and then in 2027 you have 160 million registered voters, the budget will double, because INEC usually plans a voter because it believes that it should be ready if every of those 60 million people go out and decide to vote, right? And so you're always going to have an increase in budget size in terms of the preparation of our elections. But just like I said, for insecurity, it is also important that if we give you this money, can you give us a credible and transparent election in exchange? And your inability to give the kind of elections that Nigerians will be proud of should lead to resignation of the INEC chairman. We cannot spend taxpayers' money on a commission and you are electing or nominating partisan hacks as INEC commissioners. It makes no sense, because what you're saying or you're doing brazenly is that you want to interfere with the process at some level once party agents are nominated as INEC commissioners. So the commissioners that we nominate into the commission must be people of impeccable integrity and a track record of excellence, whether it's in academia or in the private sector or public sector. But these are people that should have no affiliation to any political party. And the INEC chairman must always put his integrity on the line with every election that he conducts. That if we give you this amount of money to run elections, you must give us an election that the people can trust, and the people and the results, people have confidence in those results. You have elections where all of the elections are challenged up to the Supreme Court, and we have a fundamental problem. And the person at the helm of that affair must be answering questions to the Nigerian people. So, in a nutshell, everybody is going to the same market, and inflation is driving up prices. So you can't make assumptions with last constructed roads in what we do cost thing. And so, I mean, I'm sure that many of them have gone back to their offices, and the inflationary pressures on the cost things that they need to incur has hit the roof, and they obviously need a lot more funding if they are going to be effective with the plans that they put in place in the administration. I've always said that we must fight the number one enemy, which is inflation. If we don't bring inflation down, it doesn't matter how much your revenue are able to generate, we will not have a meaningful impact, because the cost of everything that will be spending on that, and it would out doubt to be more safe. So it's unfortunate. That explains why many ministries need more money. Inflation is fueling everything. And the weakening of our currency has also worsened the situation. So obviously, these agencies, these ministries are certainly need more money.
Right. All right. I just have about 2 more questions for you, and I promise I'll let you go that you're very busy. All right. Yes. Okay. 1. Let's do 1. I apologize. Let's do 1 so we can round this off. So we understand, once the budget is approved by the Senate, MDAs are authorized to spend monies, based on the appropriation. But for example, SERAP. Let's bring SERAP into this right now. Remember, I did say in my introduction that they have decided to take the Senate President, 꽊ᴜᴜ, to court because of his refusal. They gave a 7-day ultimatum. If you don't bring back the allocation to 197 as it was initially penned down, we're going to take you to court, and they have done just that. So this demand of SERAP, right, to adjust the lawmakers should send a request to the president to present a fresh supplementary appropriation bill which would reflect the reduced budget for the National Assembly. What is the possibility of this request? Is a budget alteration or a budget amendment possible at this point, now that it has been presented, it has been signed? SERAP taking this case to court, is it possible that the court asks that the budget be re-amended and the figures be returned to the original allocation to the National Assembly? That's all you have to do for us.
So the court cannot the court cannot issue a direction what is to be amended. What the court can do, and this is exactly what SERAP is asking the court to do, is to make a pronouncement as to whether the National Assembly has the powers to appropriate funding, to appropriate more funding to itself, way above what had already been passed. So what the court is asking is to say, okay, in the budget that was placed before the National Assembly and signed by Mr. President, allocated, what were the National Assembly. While the National Assembly was making appropriation, it decided to appropriate 270 billion to themselves. So SERAP is asking the court to make a pronouncement whether in the powers of appropriation that the National Assembly has, they have the powers to change their budgetary allocation. Now, I think that's an important question for the court to answer, because to a large extent, it is clear that the National Assembly has the power of the purse, which means it can determine or decide to allocate resources as it wishes, right? It can choose to appropriate more resources to defense and take away resources from, for instance, education, and move them more to defense. They have the power to do that. But I think the thing is whether it has the powers to raise its own budgetary spending after the budget has been passed. And it will be interesting to see what it takes. I'll be looking forward to that. But over the top of my head, I believe that National Assembly has the power to appropriate funding. It decides spending priorities, where money should go and where reason why there's a lot of questions is because the spending that the National Assembly is raising on is on themselves. And because that they have shown, they have shown not to be sensitive to the economic reality that people are facing. It's raising all sorts of questions why they in their own budget by over 100 billion. And this raises all sorts of questions. But fundamentally, they have the powers, to decide where funding goes and how much ministries and agencies are allowed to spend, which is why I've always argued that, people must be willing to hold these individuals to account because they have, the powers of appropriation and can affect our lives directly with how they choose to channel government spending.
Ayo Adio, it's been such a pleasure conversing with you this evening. I appreciate you for the extra time that you were able to grant us. I know that you have other commitment. Hopefully, maybe when the court, decides something, we can have another conversation, because now there's a precedent to how much power the Senate, can exert when it comes to appropriation and appropriating more money to itself. Ayo Adio is a public affairs analyst and managing editor Avalon Daily, and we spoke to him about the 2024 budget and the decision of the National Assembly to appropriate more money to themselves. Ayo Adio, have a wonderful evening. It was a pleasure once again talking to you.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Cheers.
All right. Well, that's the conversation with Ayo Adio this evening. We did talk about the 2024 budget. We placed a lot of emphasis on the decision of the National Assembly to appropriate 344 billion to itself, as opposed to the 197 billion that was initially pegged in the budget. And this conversation is mostly as a result of SERAP's reaction to the decision of the National Assembly. They have invoked the law. They have taken this matter to the court. They are asking the court, is it okay for the National Assembly to appropriate more money to themselves? Does it reflect the reality of the average Nigerian? 133 million people living below poverty line. We have over 20 million out of school children. The inflation figure continued to go up. Two-digit inflation figure, 28.9%. We of course know what Forex is saying at this particular time and the constant depreciation of the Naira. And we have a National Assembly that is deciding to appropriate more money for itself. Not because they're trying to improve their operations per se, but they're appropriating money for a library, they're appropriating money for furniture, they're appropriating money for renovation of buildings, befitting renovations to suit certain individuals, amongst other things. And Nigerians have asked the question, why? Where is your sense of priority? How is it that this increments that you decided to give to yourself, at the end of the day, what impact is it going to have on the life of the average Nigerian on the streets? Those are the questions that are being asked at this time, which is why I brought, the position of the law. Does the law allow them to do this? What happened to their sense of priority? Like I said before, what's the whole point of the budget defense? Because we have duplication of projects, monies that can be appropriated to other things. We're seeing multiple or the same project across multiple items on the budget, amongst other things, which are some of the problems that prevents us from really seeing the impact of the budget. We'll see the benefit of the budget at the end of the day. Lagos, it's time for us to take your submission. How about you call us and talk to us? What do you think about Ayo Adio's position on some of these questions that I asked him also? And if you want to bring fresh perspective to the table, you want us to maybe look at this from a different angle, you have some sort of idea that you like to sell to us on radio regarding this conversation on the 2024 budget, please by all means you can call us. 0913-6000-410 is the studio line. If you'd rather send a WhatsApp message, send a message to 0913-6000-430. That's for WhatsApp, and also text messages for those of you who rather send a text message. I said earlier that we're streaming live, so we're on Facebook, we're also on YouTube at this particular time, so please do well to send us a message via Facebook or the streaming platform. Ask your questions. We can very easily relay those questions to our guest. We can send a message and then he could respond via message, but then again you could just throw it out there. Maybe another listener would be willing to address the questions that you have asked. But then again, this is still the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. We're talking about the 2024 budget with emphasis on the financial appropriation to the National Assembly. My name is Sage Babalola. We're going to take a breather, right? And when we come back, we'll open the phone lines properly so that you can call in and give your submission on the subject matter for today. It's Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. Don't go anywhere.
Dear Nigerians, I am determined, I repeat, to give you the affordable and reliable power.
The stakes are higher than ever.
Government policy does not support youth in this country. So if you say you have any idea, one day, one way or the other.
The conversations are louder than imagined. The expectations are greater. The demand for quality blueprints needed to make informed decisions is constantly being reviewed.
You can't start hiding under party or anything. We are leaders that are entrusted by our people. Come and speak on their behalf.
The Situation Room on 98.3 Mainland FM provides the platform where all of your demands are met. Issue-based conversations about politics, policies, leadership and governance in Nigeria and around the world. Join us every Mondays through Fridays from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. as we engage and interact towards setting the agenda for proper accountability and public engagements. The Situation Room is here. We welcome the roommates.
Welcome back and thank you for standing by. Still the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. We're talking 2024 budget and the appropriation to the National Assembly and also the position of SERAP, as well as many other aspects regarding the decision of the National Assembly to appropriate more money for their operation in the face of rising inflation and the current economic reality of the average Nigerian. The phone line 0913 6000 410. That's how you call us in the studio. You can also send a text message or a WhatsApp message to the alternative number, which is 0913 6000 430. We're live on Facebook. We're also on YouTube. We're streaming the program live, so you can drop your submission via those platforms as well to talk to us or give us your perspective on the matter. Well, at 5 p.m. we are going to take the headline news and then at the full bulletin at 5:30. But before we go on that break, I would like to take a few calls before we decide to go on the news break at 5 p.m. Hello, good evening. Hello. Okay, please try to call us back if you can. 0913 6000 410. We're talking about the 2024 budget, the decision of the National Assembly to appropriate more monies to themselves. Most of the questions that are being asked this afternoon regarding their decision is first, most importantly, what sort of performance do you expect from this budget? And also the decision of SERAP to take this matter, to invoke the court of law regarding this matter. We're asking, what sort of impact is this going to have at the end of the day? Does the court in the first place even have the authority to ask for some sort of budget alteration in the first place? Also, is it possible that the initial figure or this National Assembly decides to revert to the initial figure of 197? I brought up the conversation also about certain ministries or departments and even INEC asking that more monies be appropriated to their department, more monies be appropriated to the Ministry of Defense, for example, because it would take a lot for them to perform optimally. The monies that have been appropriated to the National Assembly, or the extra money that has been appropriated to the National Assembly, is it possible that we can take these monies and put them in agencies that genuinely need them? Although security already has the lion's share of the budget, which our analyst Ayo Adio highlighted is probably not enough. The best that we think we're doing for security at this time is probably not enough, and we're going to have to do more if we're serious about addressing insecurity in the country. So, is renovating the National Assembly the most important agenda on our table right now? Is building an e-library of over 200 million naira the most important thing right now? Is trying to build befitting houses for civil servants or public servants the most important agenda on our table at this particular time? Is buying bulletproof vehicles the most important thing that we need to do right now, or solve the problem of insecurity, of hunger, of our depreciating unemployment figures, amongst other things? The phone lines are still open. 0913 6000 410. Please send us a text message. 0913 6000 430. We're still live on Facebook. We're streaming. You can send a message there, and then we would read those messages as we progress with the show. Let me take a comments that we have here on Facebook. We have Ise Benjamin on Facebook saying, "Good evening, mainland crew. The budget to me has not in any way helped the masses. They budgeted and spent the money the way they want as politicians in the country. Where things are done rightly, INEC is supposed to return the money given to the ministry in 2023 election based on the way the election was conducted. The chairman of INEC, for one, is supposed to explain to the Nigeria people what the problem was and why he could not transmit the result electronically as promised. Since he couldn't do what he promised, he should refund the money he collected for that purpose. Not until this is done, the chairman of INEC has no right to demand for more money in the 2024 budget." Benjamin from Shogule sent that message. Let's go to the phone lines. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, good evening to you. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Yes, welcome. Please go ahead. What's your
Yes,
name?
I want to talk to Mr. Femi.
Okay, I don't think this is the right number for that. This is mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. All right, the phone line to join the conversation is 0913 6000 410. If you want to comment on the 2024 budget, you want to talk about the position of the National Assembly and answer some of the questions that we have thrown to the public, or give your perspective on these matters that have been raised regarding the budget, by all means, call us 0913 6000 410. Send us a text message as well, or WhatsApp message if you're more comfortable doing that. 0913 6000 430. So we have a couple messages on here. We have a message here that says, "Good evening or good afternoon, mainland FM crew. The budget to me has not in any way helped the masses. They budgeted and spent money." Okay, Benjamin, I think you sent this on Facebook, right? So I'll just take another one. Sam from Magodo says, "Good evening, I'm Sam from Magodo. How do we hold the politicians or the National Assembly members that went to represent the people accountable, when the judiciary that is supposed to help Nigerians hold these politicians accountable are somewhat loyal to them? It is just God that will help Nigerians to elect the right people to lead them. If not, Nigerians are helpless in the hands of these politicians." Sam, thank you so very much for your message. We have another one here. "Good afternoon, Sage, your guest, and the listeners. The members of the National Assembly increasing the nation's budget for fiscal year of 2024 is not impressive, considering the amount they budget for themselves, while asking the poor, needy, and the less privileged Nigerians to sacrifice and cut down their expenses. Nigerians need legal ways and means to stop the financial recklessness and the corruption of the National Assembly. I am Adeleye in Festac Extension, Lagos." Thank you, Adeleye, for your WhatsApp message. Hello.
Hello?
This is you're on to mainland 98.3 FM. This is not Mr. Femi. All right. You're calling the wrong number. Thank you very much for your call. We have other messages via Facebook as well. We have here, "Good afternoon, house. I think." All right. There's no need to put some sort of tribal coloration to this matter. We're talking about the budget. We're not talking about the tribes or the ethnicity of those who represent us there. We're not talking about who they are. We're talking about the decision, the unanimous decision that was made regarding how monies are being, appropriated to certain ministries, departments, and even to the National Assembly. So thank you very much for your message. If you're willing to rephrase, I'll be more than happy to read it. What we're going to do now is go on another break, so we're able to take the headline news at 5, and then we'll take another commercial break, and then we come back to take more submission from you. This is the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. My name is Sage BABALOLA. Don't go anywhere.
Hello, my name is 𝗃ᴗ, and I'm a broadcast journalist and a sport administrator. I want you to listen to Situation Room with OꞰLṃ on Mainland 98.3 FM from 4 to 5 p.m. weekdays. God bless Nigeria.
You're here now and we will attend to you, so calm down. I need you to hold still. You've lost a lot of blood, please.
Fantastic conversations.
Great to see you again. It's good weather. You want to agree with that?
Yeah, I love weather. Trending music.
I live the life that I love. I love the life that I live. Tomorrow.
Traffic updates.
Ojova and Charity intersections is good. There's no cause for alarm.
Sports. And everything fun is right here on Mainland 98.3 FM. Don't touch that dial.
Headline news on 98.3 Mainland FM.
Good evening. Headline news on 98.3 Mainland FM. My name is Omobola Sandra. Plateau, 30 killed in fresh attack on Kwaha's Lagleg Mango. Court grants ex-Anambra Governor Obiano bail, demands his international passport. Tinubu departs Abuja for France on private visit. Aiyedatiwa appoints ex-National Assembly clerk as deputy governor. Federal government says ban on some plastics inevitable. On the foreign scene, dozens dead after fire breaks out in China shop. In sports, Bayern Munich remains keen on Newcastle's Trippier despite rejected bids. That's the headline news on Mainland FM. Details at 5:30.
You're listening to Mainland 98.3 FM. You're listening to Mainland 98.3 FM. You're listening to Mainland 98.3 FM.
Yo, Nigeria, wake up. They say make hay while the sun shines, so it's wise to link your NIN to your Airtel line ASAP. Big Brother isn't watching your phone calls, but the NIN police are, so don't be the housemate voted out of your network. NIN registration is not a joke. No NIN, no network. It's not a maybe, it's blocked. There's no calls, no data, no flexing online, no Instagram, no X, nothing. You be a ghost. But hold up, don't stress. You have the power to avoid being disconnected. Dial *346# and boom, your 11-digit NIN pops up like magic. Now link that bad boy to your Airtel line with *996# and you're safe and will not be blocked unawares. So what are you waiting for? This isn't the time for I'm going to do it tomorrow, because tomorrow might be too late. Don't be the last one standing on the wrong side of the network firewall. Dial those codes, link your NIN, and keep your Airtel line buzzing this new year. And if you do get blocked, don't panic. Just walk into any Airtel store with a valid ID and your NIN slip and you will be reconnected. The process is user-friendly and can be completed swiftly. Dial *346# and link your Airtel number by dialing *996#. It's easy peasy lemon squeezy. Link your Airtel number to your NIN today.
Airtel, a reason to imagine.
Vegetables have a way of taking us on a journey. And when you add plenty of vegetables like 𝗏, ugu, and season with the rich taste of Knorr seasoning cubes, even better.
So, go ahead and elevate your meals with more vegetables and the rich taste of Knorr cubes. Today, eat for good.
Hey there, tech enthusiasts! Get ready to ignite your world with the all-new Tecno Spark 20.
That's right! The Spark 20 with its stunning display and powerful features is here to redefine your smartphone experience.
We've also partnered with Google and MTN to bring you even more. With the Spark 20, Google apps and loads of free MTN data, your digital life just got smarter and more connected.
Grab your Tecno Spark 20 today and step into a world where style meets technology.
Tecno, stop at nothing.
Official partner of the Africa Cup of Nations 2023.
There are some things that stress you, and there are others that come with ease, like getting a new smartphone.
Easy.
Paying for the smartphone in installments.
Too easy.
Even getting bonus data upon purchase.
Way too easy.
Upgrade easily to the Itel P55 5G smartphone with Easy Buy to pay in installments and get up to 10 gig of data for 6 months. Other smartphone and data options also available. Visit any smartphone retail outlet to get started.
Airtel, a reason to imagine.
What takes a plate of jollof rice to the next level of goodness? Is it when it is cooked with Knorr seasoning cubes for that sumptuous taste? Or when you serve it with correct Nigerian salad, cabbage, carrot, lettuce, and a bit of kidney beans?
It's both. Season your jollof with the rich taste of Knorr cubes and serve with plenty of vegetables. So, go ahead and elevate your meals. Today, eat for good.
Hey there, tech enthusiasts! Get ready to ignite your world with the all-new Tecno Spark 20.
That's right! The Spark 20 with its stunning display and powerful features is here to redefine your smartphone experience.
We've also partnered with Google and MTN to bring you even more. With the Spark 20, Google apps and loads of free MTN data, your digital life just got smarter and more connected.
Grab your Tecno Spark 20 today and step into a world where style meets technology.
Tecno, stop at nothing.
Official partner of the Africa Cup of Nations 2023.
The Financial Services Regulation Coordinating Committee, FSRCC, in collaboration with the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, wishes to draw the attention of the public to the worrisome increase in the activities of illegal financial operators, IFOs, which threaten public trust and the stability of the Nigerian financial system. The FSRCC and NBC hereby advises the general public to refrain from dealing with unlicensed financial operators who deceive individuals with unrealistically high investment returns. Make sure to verify the licensing status of such companies and schemes on this website. To report any suspicions of illicit financial activities, call 0700 225 5226, 0800 225 5226, or +234 817 665 6273. Let's work together to uphold the integrity of Nigeria's financial system. Announcer, FSRCC.
Hey there, tech enthusiasts! Get ready to ignite your world with the all-new Tecno Spark 20.
That's right! The Spark 20 with its stunning display and powerful features is here to redefine your smartphone experience.
We've also partnered with Google and MTN to bring you even more. With the Spark 20, Google apps and loads of free MTN data, your digital life just got smarter and more connected.
Grab your Tecno Spark 20 today and step into a world where style meets technology.
Tecno, stop at nothing.
Official partner of the Africa Cup of Nations 2023.
Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos.
Dear Nigerians, I am determined, I repeat, to give you the affordable and reliable power.
The stakes are higher than ever.
Government policy does not support youth in this country. So if you say you have any idea, one day, one way or the other.
The conversations are louder than imagined. The expectations are greater. The demand for quality blueprints needed to make informed decisions is constantly being reviewed.
You can't start hiding under party or anything. We are leaders that are entrusted by our people. Come and speak on their behalf.
The Situation Room on 98.3 Mainland FM provides the platform where all of your demands are met. Issue-based conversations about politics, policies, leadership and governance in Nigeria and around the world. Join us every Mondays through Fridays from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. as we engage and interact towards setting the agenda for proper accountability and public engagements. The Situation Room is here. We welcome the roommates.
Welcome back, roommates. You're still on the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. My name is Sage Babalola. We had a conversation earlier with Ayo Adio, a public affairs commentator, and also the managing editor of Avalon Daily. We spoke about the 2024 budget, but a lot of our focus was on the National Assembly and their decision to up their initial budget from 197 billion to 344.85 billion naira. We asked a lot of questions around the budget, of course, budget performance, the considerations with budget defense and other things, duplication of items on the budget, and many other conversations. But then we're still driving to the point, how can our budget take care of our needs? How is it that our spending is over the years unable to cater to our primary problems? Where is our sense of priority continues to be the top on the list of all the questions that I have to ask today. And of course, we're asking you to call us and tell us what you think about these perspectives that our analysts have put out there whilst we're asking many questions. Aside from all of the budget defense and all of the appropriations and all of the demands of ministries like defense and INEC regarding how much has been given to them and the desire for more money if we're expecting optimal performance, there's also the conversation regarding payment of pension and severance package, that is being appropriated in the budget. Now, it might be considered slightly unrelated to the subject at hand, but it's still in a way constitutes the overall conversation of budgeting and allocations, because every year we budget huge amount of money for the payment of pensions, severance package for ex-governors, for example. And aside from the factor of conscience, right, we have many experts that have highlighted that the possible illegality of this arrangement can be a problem, because for you to get pension or severance package, you must have served for at least 10 years, but these governors only serve 2 tenures, which sums up to 8 years. So why are we appropriating monies to pay governors who did not serve up to 10 years and are therefore ineligible to these packages? That's another question I want us to address as we communicate today on radio. I don't understand what's going on with the phone line, so I sincerely apologize. We'll get a handle on it, but you can still reach us via Facebook. Let's try to take this call. Hello. Finally, I know you've been trying. I know. I'm so sorry. I know I've been struggling with it, but I'm glad you're here. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you for coming on board.
Yes.
I want to talk about the state government that for letting money to students. Some are ministers today, they say for letting money for that state, which is pushing order for the country. It doesn't order for the state. But in the budget of 2024, the foreign part now, I just want to ask Mr. President, all those ministers, especially Minister for Work, Minister for Power, Minister for Education, Minister for Agriculture, they must work for Nigeria. They must work for us. Because as it is now, from now, January to May, the rate setting, that period between now and May, the minister for us to go out, 30% in the office, the minister 30% at the side. So that give their work, and to pay the contractor, and then they do the work. There's a lot of roads, it's not possible now. But it's a set of time to take up the road, pay the contractor, let them work. That's what road you must do by safe. Ora Ekaru, Persona, I want the contract, ask me, contractor no more again. I want to appeal your medium from the minister of your work, please go take the contractor and then you go back to the site.
Thank you.
This is what I say this evening, our lovely stage.
Thank you very much, Prince Wise, for calling. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Very well, thank you, sir. Good evening.
My name is Ambrose.
Nice to have you, sir. Welcome.
Stage.
Yes.
I listened to your guest. And in all of this, you know what is coming to my mind?
Tell me.
Why can't we do things decently in this country? Why can't we follow decorum? Sometimes we shortchange. All of these things that you just mentioned, they pass, they do this, they do that. At the end of the day, what goes around comes around. You take money out of the system, you take it out of the country, and then you go to where people are doing things properly. And when you get there, you do it properly. You come back here, you see madness. Does it make sense? I don't know how I can explain this thing, Sage. I'm worried. I know you're talking about, election. You're also talking about because some other things like that. But I'm looking at Nigeria generally, and I'm looking at the attitude of our politicians, how they are only interested in themselves, and how we, the masses, some of us still try to cover them up. And our children who are going through all of this, what about our children? Age, generally, things have gone haywire. Is it food? Is it medical? And all of these things is based on dollars. The dollars keep on precipitating, and yet we can't find solution. I'm telling you, if I become the president, I know what to do. The problem we have is that Mr. President is afraid to step on toes. There are some decisions we do. Nobody is bigger than this country.
Pastor Bruce, thank you so much for calling.
My heart bleeds because what I can use 10,000 naira to buy in December, I will use 20,000 naira to buy it now. You think I will continue?
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for calling. Good afternoon. Thank you for calling. We're still talking about the 2024 budget and the National Assembly. What are your thoughts about the decisions that have been made, the appropriations that have been made, and also SERAP taking this matter to court, asking that there be some sort of reversal and to also verify what does the law really say about the power of the National Assembly to make such appropriations to themselves. So we're waiting for the outcome, or the decision of the court regarding this particular matter. Hello.
I greet you.
I greet you too, sir. Good evening.
Please, I don't know what's wrong with Nigeria.
Please introduce yourself so we know, so people know who's speaking. Sir, please tell us your name, where you're calling from, so people know who's on the line.
Why can't we go back to this? This is a document called Constitution. Why can't we change it? We have noticed that this is not working. Why can't we change it? Who is building it? Why are we talking like this? All the time we are talking this side, they don't want it to be amended. This side, they want it to be amended. Why can't we go to the Constitution? This thing is not working. Who wrote this thing?
Okay, hold on. What part of the Constitution are you referring to right now in relations to this subject matter of the budget?
That's where our problem. Whoever becomes president is operating on that document. The president cannot go out of it. It is not working for us. Why can't we change it totally or name major areas there? My name is Ogola. I'm calling from Maryland.
All right. Thank you very much for calling. We appreciate you for your perspective on the matter. Aside from just scrutinizing the decision of the National Assembly, I also want us to have a conversation about your expectation for this budget. I mean, it's called the Budget of Renewed Hope, and we want to know what you think about how well it's going to contribute to the development of the country. You know, there's some sort of 7-point agenda of this particular administration, right? A lot of promises to be fulfilled, and this budget is supposed to be be the driving force, because is monies that you use to execute the plans that you have for the country. So what are your expectations of this particular budget in the midst of all the controversy and all the contentious perspective that has come up regarding the budget and the monies that are being appropriated to certain things? What expectations do you even have of the budget in its entirety? Don't forget that in spite of all of this, there's still an estimated national revenue projection of 18.32 trillion naira. That's how much we're expected to make if we follow through with all of the appropriations of this particular budget. And don't forget, in the long run, we expect to have a $1 trillion economy at the end of the day, and this budget is relevant to that plan of a 1 trillion naira economy. But the estimated national revenue for the fiscal year 2024 based on this 28.7 trillion naira budget is 18.32 trillion naira. The feasibility of this projection is what I'm trying to get your perspective on. Is it possible, based on this appropriation, the fact that we're giving money to renovate buildings, to build gardens, wildlife conservation, or what's the title on it, the duplication of projects amongst other things? Do you think that truthfully this budget is going to be able to give us the results that we have projected so far? These are some of the questions that I'm throwing out there. So when you call, please do well to address these matters as well. Let's go back to the phone lines. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, good evening to you.
Good evening.
Welcome, sir. Go on, please.
Yeah. You people have been talking about the budget. The government in power did not put economic mechanism to set aside how to generate this revenue. The only thing they only believe in is the tax revenue. If the government propose that you are going to spend about 28 trillion naira, and the expectation and the way they are going to generate that money, it comes from the fiscal tax policies, how to bring in a tax, different tax to come in. It is possible that all the citizens will be in the hardship. I'm telling you the fact. How will I say so? Look at it now. Because most of the revenue will not come from the mineral resources, it not even come from other areas that we are not even been generating revenue. It only coming from the people and what is affecting us. From the green, from the power sector, from all the energy area. This is where most of the people depending. The more the government propose the amount of money on this project, on this budget, it is mean that the more people going to pay more. Look at it. They're increasing the budget to almost 28 trillion naira. Now, how much did they say the gas? How much did they say the fuel? The more the budget is increasing, the more this item that the government is going to use to generating the revenue, the more it's going to increase in the market. It's not about the big budget. It's about a small budget that is going to benefit everybody. When you take 20 naira to the market, you know that there is a 20 naira. This is what I want to use it for. But when our 20 naira is no longer buying a street in the street, it is possible that if they even propose 40 trillion naira, it is mean over 2,000 naira cannot even buy something of 10 naira. This is the reality, whether you like it or not. The more government increasing their budget, the more people, the citizens suffer for it. Even if they're increasing the allocation to a different ministry, the more they increase it, the more people that are passing to that service, the more they pay for it. That is how the budget works. The budget did not come on its own. The budget comes both of the expectation of the revenue and the money of them generating from the different source. And the moment government proposes this way, that is how the government is going to generate it. That is my input.
Thank you very much. You are right. They're making plans for non-oil revenue. It's a very strong conversation even surrounding the budget. The government is trying non-oil revenue because we're depending so much on oil. And a lot of experts have said with the unstable oil prices, it would be, I don't want to use the word coming to me, but unreasonable. Let's say that it would be unreasonable to depend on oil as the primary revenue for the budget or how much money we're able to make. So for non-oil revenue, they decided to go the way of taxation, but they're saying they're going to harmonize the taxation. You don't have to pay multiple taxes or pay unreceipted taxes. You're just going to pay to the FIRS, and all of these things. There'll be accountability, and they'll be able to use it for the right things. That is the proposed plan. But then all we know is that it's the proposal. We know how it has been. We know the story that history has told us about proposal and projections, among other things. But I'm not going to try to rain on the parade of those at the helm of affairs. Not at all. I'm simply just presenting the facts to you and take in your opinion regarding this information that they have decided to give out to the public. So please, we can still take about, I believe, 2 more calls before we round things off here on the Situation Room and give opportunity for the 𝗃 bulletin at 5:30 p.m. It's still the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. I think we have a WhatsApp message here. It says, "Good evening, Sage. I want to ask the question. The process that brought these people into power, is it even free, fair, and credible? Why are we rejoicing or expecting them to do what is expected of them? They are violating the laws in the land. Is this a governance that we can continue with? Blessed are those who do not expect from this government, for they shall not be disappointed. I am disappointed." Dio from Fagba, thank you very much for your message. We appreciate you. Let's see if we can take at least one more call before we call it a wrap on today's episode of the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, where we spoke about the 2024 budget and all the multiple appropriations, especially the one to the National Assembly, and SERAP's decision to take this to the Court of Law. I know that SERAP has, if we do a sum total of the amount of cases that SERAP has taken to the Court of Law, we probably will be unable to quantify it, but this is one of the latest matters that SERAP has decided to invoke the position of the law on the decision of the National Assembly. SERAP is asking a question: do you have the power as the National Assembly to appropriate more money to yourself in the first place? Even if you do, is it correct, for the sake of conscience, for you to do that, knowing that you are representing people who are going through extreme poverty? Even if the law allows you, of which we don't know yet until we hear the position of the court, but even if the law allows you do that, for the sake of conscience, for the sake of humanity, for the sake of taking care of the people who ask that you represent them at the national level, is it okay for you to appropriate such huge sums of money to yourself while the people you're representing continue to wallow in poverty? These are the questions that the public are asking, and we decided to echo those questions and allow you to speak directly to those in power. 0913 6,410 is the number to call. My name is Sage Babalola. This is the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM. We're live on Facebook and also on YouTube, so you can join us on those streaming platforms, and you can drop your message on there. Okay, there's a message. There's really no need to send the messages multiple times. Okay, you can send it once and I will read it, and I think I already took this particular message. But the beauty of the streaming platform is, even if you're unable to watch it right now or join live, it would be uploaded on our Facebook platform, so you can go there and watch at any time of your convenience. Anytime it's convenient to you, just go on there, watch the program, comment, start conversations, engage other people on the matter. Do you agree with certain perspectives? Do you have fresh perspectives, among other things? It's the beauty of social media. We're also on X, by the way, at Mainland FM, and like I've been announcing since last week, we're starting something on X, and we really want you to get on board. The official announcement will be made very soon, but follow us on X, turn on your post notification so that when we start, X would notify you and you can be a part of that particular program. This is actually a decent place to end the conversation for today. I appreciate all of you that tried to reach out to me. I apologize for the difficulty with the phone lines. I did see that a lot of you were trying to call even whilst I had the guest on, but for some reason we were unable to answer the phone calls, or when we did, there was really some sort of a void. So I apologize for that, and for those of you who got through, we respect and appreciate your opinion on the matter, and we're grateful that you continue to be a part of the conversations that we bring to you on radio. This has been my time. Thank you so very much for joining us. The Situation Room will come back again tomorrow, same time, same station, 4 p.m. all the way to 5:30 p.m. on Mainland 98.3 FM, as we bring to you more important matters and have dialogue about these matters to keep you informed and also help you make the right decisions regarding the decisions and policies of those at the helm of affairs. The Situation Room for today is done. My name is Sage Babalola. Thank you for going with us on this rodeo.
Dear Nigerians, I am